Welcome everybody! Today we complete our SIDEMOUNT setup with the underwater trials and final adjustments. The underwater model for today, or better my personal lab rat, is gonna be Mauro!
Welcome everybody!
If you've been diving with Ghost Divers before, you might already had the pleasure to meet him. Mauro was also helping me during my world record and is a technical cave instructor, a technical side mount instructor. Today is gonna pretend to be using the side mount for the first time. Before getting in the water, we want to have a look at the equipment that we prepared for you, the equipment that I am using, and what to inspect underwater. Let's have a look at Mauro's setup. Turn around, please. The shoulder plate, we just must make sure that it's not painful on his neck, and for him, this configuration is okay. For the lower back plate, or better, the level of the waist strap, we just want to have it under the hip bone, and for him, this is comfortable enough, so we leave it like this for now. The wing of this side mount can be moved up and down a little bit to adjust the trim. So for now, we don't need to get crazy about it because we just have to check it underwater to make sure that it can be horizontal. We just want to make sure that it's fairly tight. Also that the crotch strap is fairly tight, but not too much. In this setup, Mauro has fixed D-rings, so it's gonna have to change from the top one to the lower one when the tanks become positive because we use aluminum tanks. This is the setup I use today, and this is how it's different from the one of Mauro. My shoulder plate is much lower on my back, and also my waist strap is much lower on my hip bones than Mauro has, because for me it's more comfortable like this, and also like to attach my tanks as low as possible instead of having them up here. Now, my wing is retained on the shoulder strap, which means that cannot be adjusted to modify the trim underwater. Instead of fixed D-ring, I have sliding D-rings, and then I also have a couple of fixed D-rings here, but honestly I'm not gonna need to use them today, so I can just change the trim of my tanks like that. Let's have a look at the tanks now. Both Mauro and I are using the tanks rotated 45 degrees under the armpit, but I asked Mauro to place a short hose on the right tank, and I have the long hose instead, okay? Now, short hose is just for side mount team or solo diving, long hose if you dive in a mixed team. But what I want to show you is this. The left tank that has the short hose as the inflator is the most stable on the body when we place the bungee, where the long hose with no inflator, and because the hose comes from here instead of from here and around the neck, these tanks can move a lot underwater even if the bungee is properly placed. Now, Mauro doesn't have an inflator here because he's using a wetsuit today, but he has a short hose on this side. So his tank is gonna move a little bit less than mine because the hose comes directly here from the first stage around the neck. So it's a little bit more stable than when you have the long hose. Now we have to consider what we need to check underwater. About the harness wing setup, we need to check if there is any slack once Mauro is underwater in the proper body posture, if there is any slack with the harness or with the wing, especially on the butt, because it is going to inflate and move. So we need to check that it's nice and tight on his body. Then we also need to check not just the buoyancy, but the trim. So maybe we move the wing up and down a little bit, but we can also put weights in the pouch. And what I really love to use just the first day in confined water is a clip weight, because we can quickly remove them, place them in other places, and then later we change them for, of course, weights in the pockets. What we need to check about the tanks is the trim, which depend on the position of the D-ring in our waist strap, the rotation of the tanks on our body, which depend on the position of the clip and the tension of the bungee, and then the height of the tank on our body under the armpit, which depend on the height of the rig on the tank itself. To give Mauro a direct feedback about his equipment, I'm gonna film him with my phone. I can show him what happens underwater, or I can show him at the surface. It depends on the situation. Guys, I already made a video about this housing. I think it's a great tool for confined water training. Go check it out. We are finally ready for the best part, which is getting in the water, because as we all know, best things in life are wet. After this first confined water, we saw what we have to adjust. His harness is basically fine. Looks like you used it before. The only thing that we have to adjust is the position of the tanks, because we said that we want to keep them under the armpit, almost right at the 45 degrees, and they were a little bit too high and almost flat, and the bungee was was too long. So now we have to do the bungee shorter, move the position of the retainers of the bungee a little bit down, and then we have to adjust the tanks. Let's start with the adjustment of the bungee, and then we continue with the tank. We are going to make the bungee shorter, considerably shorter. We tried to leave it long before because it seems to be comfortable, but now underwater we realize it's really too long. So we're going to just move the stop knot like this. And now it should arrive to the elbow at least. It should be able to be pulled in front of you. Okay. It cannot be tighter than this. This is as tight as we can do it. And now we have to move the bungee retainer a little bit lower. Like this. Okay? Because the bungee should not be hitting right under the armpit, should be a little bit lower. Before it seemed to be okay, but that's why we have to try underwater. The adjustment we have to do on the tank is to open the rig, pull it a little bit up, and then rotate it a little bit inside. Not a lot, just a little bit. This is going to allow the tank to rotate a little bit more, and is also going to be a little bit lower, so it's not going to hit the armpit. It's going to be more comfortable. Try again to pull the bungee. Okay.
Okay.
It cannot be tighter than that. It's very tight. And you have these beautiful antennas on your back. But that's normal. It's part of the process. Now, we did the adjustment. Let's go in the water and let's see what happened. We did it finally, Mauro. Thank you for your help. We managed to make the assignment work the way we intended, and maybe after a few dives you can still decide to use it in a different ways. You know, the position of the tanks, the one we tried today works today. Maybe in a few dives you decide you want to try something different. Thank you guys for watching us, and keep doing experiments with your equipment. Remember, the best feedback is always to watch yourself in a video, especially if behind the camera there is a friend of you who makes fun of all the bullshit you do. You can still try something new and figure it out that, wow, maybe you like it better. No me recuerdo. Viste, dije demasiadas pendejadas y me perdí.